I won't scan this SGT. Private Kinley tossed the ID back across the counter, grinning. Looks like it came out of a cereal box. She didn't flinch. A woman, maybe late 40s. Plain jacket, boots worn at the heels, hair pulled back like she didn't own a mirror. No makeup, no badge, just a canvas folder tucked tight under one arm. She looked like someone's exhausted aunt, or a receptionist who got lost. "You sure this thing even scans Mendoza?" muttered, lifting the card with 2 fingers like it might bite. Might trigger a fire drill. He waved it over the scanner. The screen didn't reject it. It glowed. A golden triangle began to spin. Not animated, alive. The room fell silent. Even the old wall fan seemed to stop humming. No one laughed now. You ever dismiss someone just before they reminded you who they really were? Stick around. She's not here by accident. And this wasn't supposed to happen. The lobby doors hissed open with the sound of tired hydraulics. Jenna Gray stepped inside, early 40s, dressed like she didn't want to be noticed. Her hoodie hung loose over a plain t-shirt, jeans faded at the knees. The soles of her sneakers were worn down to smooth rubber. She didn't walk like someone lost. She walked like someone used to waiting in lines. To being overlooked. Her silver blonde hair was pulled back in a low, no-nonsense tie. No makeup, no rings. The only thing that caught the light was a scratched digital watch on her wrist, military style, the kind that syncs with satellites. In her left hand, a beat-up folder. In her right, that pale yellow card. None of it screamed threat, which is probably why no one saw her coming. But the scanner saw everything, and it remembered her. The reception area smelled faintly of floor wax and burnt coffee. A government standard desk sat beneath flickering fluorescent lights, staffed by 2 guards barely out of their 20s. Private Kinley was lounging back with his boots up. His partner Mendoza tapped idly at a terminal with the disinterest of someone halfway through a 10-hour shift. Jenna approached without urgency, placing her card gently on the counter. Neither guard looked up at first. When they finally did, their expressions didn't change. No suspicion, just the casual assumption of superiority. Kinley raised an eyebrow and smirked. Wow, haven't seen one of these in a while. He picked it up like it might crumble in his hand. "Ma'am, this card's so old I'm not sure our system even speaks the same language." Jenna didn't blink, didn't flinch, didn't explain. And that, more than anything, made Kinley want to swipe it. Just to prove she didn't belong. Kinley gave a theatrical sigh, holding the card like it was part of some office prank. "All right, let's see if this relic even beeps." He dragged it through the scanner. Nothing. Then a single red flash. Then another. The terminal paused. The usual welcome chime didn't play. Instead, it made a low mechanical click. Not digital, not friendly, like an old lock turning from the inside of a safe. Kinley raised an eyebrow. Mendoza leaned forward, frowning. That's not normal. The screen blinked black, then pulsed once, twice, and stayed dark. For 3 full seconds, no one spoke. Then, out of nowhere, a gold emblem began to bloom across the monitor, perfectly centered, a rotating triangle, slow, deliberate, surrounded by flickering, encrypted symbols. "That's not in the system," Mendoza whispered, but something, or someone, had just unlocked it. The triangle on the screen began to spin faster, not like a loading symbol, but like it knew what it was doing. Tiny symbols flickered around its edges, foreign to both guards. Then came the text. Red, all caps, Alpha Protocol engaged. Echo level verified. A tone played. Not the chirpy system ding they were used to, but a low-pitched, almost human hum, the kind that vibrates in your ribs. Kinley stepped back instinctively. Mendoza didn't breathe. Behind them, an amber light began blinking on the wall, slow, deliberate. Jenna hadn't moved. Her eyes stayed locked on the screen. Calm, certain, like she'd expected this moment to happen eventually. That ID just activated something Mendoza whispered. Something big. No one laughed anymore. No one told her she needed a newer card. Whatever system she'd just touched, it remembered her name. and the building had started to respond. The scanner beeped twice, sharp urgent. Then, clack. The terminal locked. A metal latch inside the desk snapped shut like a vault sealing itself. All the color drained from Kinley's face. Mendoza's hand hovered near the keyboard but didn't touch it. He looked at Jenna. Still motionless. Still calm. Her eyes never left the emblem spinning on the screen. Behind them, the ambient hum of the building shifted. The lights dimmed just slightly, and a soft alarm tone began pulsing from overhead speakers. Far down the hallway, a red indicator lit up beside a fire suppression panel. Then another. Someone behind the glass wall of security control stood up fast, headset slipping off. Another staffer picked up a red phone, the kind only used when things went very wrong. This isn't a badge issue," Kinley whispered. She triggered a lockdown, and she hadn't said a single word yet. That silence was starting to feel dangerous. The intercom cracked alive, loud, sharp, no music this time. "Checkpoint 1. This is command. Lock that station down immediately. Step away from the terminal. That is not standard clearance." Kinley's coffee hit the floor. Mendoza backed off like the screen might burn him. Even the woman at the nearby help desk who'd been scrolling her phone slowly stood up, eyes fixed on the terminal. Jenna, still silent, still standing there like none of this was new. "Wait," Kinley murmured, reading from the locked screen. "It says Echo Level Authorization. That's not even on our clearance charts." A new voice cut through the speakers, cool, calm, clipped Alpha Protocol, confirmed. Dispatching command Liaison. Subject to be held under full courtesy protocols. Do not detain. Repeat, do not detain. Someone, somewhere, had just made a phone call that changed everything. And Jenna Gray. She hadn't moved an inch. A door behind the checkpoint swung open fast, not in panic, but with command. Sergeant First Class Delaney stepped in, radio clipped to his vest badge gleaming under the fluorescence. He was the type who ran on protocols and paperwork. He looked ready to scold someone. "All right, what's the issue?" Then he saw the screen, the rotating gold triangle, the red text pulsing beneath it, and the two frozen guards, pale and silent. Delaney stepped closer, eyes narrowing. "Where did this authorization come from?" Kinley pointed weakly at Jenna. "She handed us that card. We thought it was fake. Then it did that." Delaney turned to Jenna. She looked him in the eye, perfectly steady. Then, for the first time, she spoke just 6 words, "You're not in charge anymore." And somehow, no one disagreed. Down the corridor office, chatter halted mid-sentence. Radios on belts began chirping short bursts of encrypted codes no one on this floor was cleared to understand. A technician near the vending machines turned pale. A woman in a lab coat froze mid-step. Her eyes locked on the blinking red light above the hallway exit. One word traveled down the hallway like a quiet ripple, echo. At first, just a whisper. Then, did they just say, echo? Clearance? I thought that was decommissioned. I thought it didn't exist. The golden emblem on the screen kept rotating, smooth, steady, uncaring. Delaney's lips parted like he wanted to say something, but didn't. Kinley, he just stared. At Jenna, at the card, at the building that had stopped breathing the moment she walked in. No sirens, no gunfire, just one woman, and a name no one dared to speak aloud. Behind a wall of bulletproof glass, the senior security tech picked up a direct line phone, bright red, the kind that bypassed all middle ranks. "Command. This is Building 7. We've got a live echo protocol trigger. Not a test, not archived, it's active. Right now." There was a pause, then a clipped reply. "Repeat. Live trigger. Yes, sir. ID verified. Terminal locked. Visuals confirmed. We need direction." The man's hands trembled slightly as he typed in override codes. Nothing worked. The screen wouldn't release her profile. The system had already decided she belonged. Down in the lobby, every secondary monitor went black, then switched to red status text. Echo, access engaged. "Do not interfere," then a voice came through the building's internal comm line. All personnel maintain position. Command liaison en route. Full courtesy protocol for subject. Do not question. Do not obstruct. Someone up there knew exactly who she was, and they weren't taking any chances. The front doors hissed open again. 2 military police officers stepped through, not rushed, not shouting. Just quiet efficiency. Their uniforms were crisp, no visible weapons drawn, but their posture said everything. They scanned the room once, then their eyes landed on Jenna, and when they saw the emblem still turning on the terminal screen, they slowed. Respectfully. The male officer stepped forward. "Ma'am, we're here to escort you to interim command processing. You'll be treated under courtesy protocol." He wasn't asking, but he wasn't ordering either. Jenna nodded once. Calm. Then turned and walked between them, not behind, not ahead, beside them. Kinley stepped out of her way, unsure if he should salute or apologize. He chose silence. No handcuffs, no commands, no explanations, just 2 soldiers, walking with someone they now recognized as untouchable. The elevator chimed on the 2nd floor. Jenna stepped out flanked by the 2 MPs. No words, no instructions. Everyone in the hallway moved aside without being told. Through glass-walled offices, heads turned, then quickly looked away. A cluster of admin staff stood near a copier pretending to read printouts. None of them blinked. A young analyst at the corner took one look at Jenna and quietly retreated, whispering something to his supervisor. Back in Security Command, Sergeant Delaney stared at the frozen terminal, the golden emblem still spinning on screen. "Get me her file," he muttered. "Now." An IT officer keyed into the internal database, then stopped. "Sir, it won't open. Try again. It's not blocked. It's marked as above system clearance, even yours." Delaney blinked, then said what everyone else was now thinking. Who the hell is she? And why does the system still know her name, when no one else does? The emblem on the terminal paused for a split second, then spun faster. Symbols around it blinked in perfect rhythm, like it was waiting for something. And then, over the intercom, a new voice. Not one from this building, not one anyone recognized. Clear, calm, final, echo-level authorization confirmed. Subject is active. Protocol integrity verified. Interim command team en route. A breathless silence spread through the admin wing. A printer jammed nearby, but no one moved to fix it. Delaney stood frozen at the terminal. Even Kinley, now in janitor's uniform, peeked around the corner, his face, pale eyes wide. Dispatching command personnel. Subject to receive full courtesy protocols. Repeat, do not detain. Do not interfere. On the screen, one final word appeared beneath the emblem, live. She wasn't reactivated. She was never off the grid. The stairwell door burst open with the force of authority, not panic. Colonel Tessa McBride didn't walk into the command wing. She took possession of it. Her flight jacket was perfectly creased, her silver oak leaves gleaming. No aide, no clipboard. Just the unmistakable air of someone who wasn't here to be briefed. She was the briefing. The hallway fell silent as she passed. Conversation stopped mid-word. Even the printer went quiet as if it knew better. McBride glanced once at the glass-walled conference room where Jenna waited, then turned to the stunned personnel frozen in place. Who triggered Echo Protocol Alpha? And why wasn't I notified the moment it happened? No one answered. A young staffer fumbled for words, but McBride cut her off with a look. One that said, "You had one job." And now someone would have to explain to McBride that Echo wasn't a rumor after all. Colonel McBride pushed open the conference room door. Jenna Gray was already seated, hands resting lightly on the polished table. She didn't stand, didn't shift. She just looked up like she'd been expecting this exact moment. McBride closed the door behind her. No guards, no protocols, just silence. Then Jenna spoke first. "You always did know how to make an entrance." McBride raised an eyebrow. A small smile tugged at the corner of her mouth. "I prefer to think of it as getting everyone's attention." She set a black folder on the table. Its red-bordered cover screamed classified beyond belief. Inside, only a single sheet. Most of it redacted, except one image, the same golden triangle still spinning on the terminal outside. You triggered Echo. 6 were ever cleared. 4 are dead. 1 vanished, which makes you the last. And the woman no one recognized just became the most dangerous person in the building. McBride turned to the cluster of stunned personnel standing just beyond the glass. Her voice didn't rise, but it filled the room like a warning shot. "Let's make something clear." She held up the black folder. Everyone leaned forward whether they meant to or not. "This is not a system malfunction. This is not a security breach. It's not a spoofed credential or a legacy card someone forgot to deactivate." She opened the folder. Inside, a printed archive stamped in red marked Echo 0, classified beyond access. She turned it so they could see. A single symbol at the top, the gold and black triangle. Beneath it, handwritten, authorized gray J. Status active. McBride looked directly at Kinley and Mendoza, now dressed in maintenance uniforms, standing at the back. "And you called her a joke." No one laughed now. Echo wasn't myth, it was order, and Jenna Gray was its trigger. The silence after McBride's words hung like smoke. Mendoza swallowed hard. Kinley shifted his weight suddenly, all too aware of his mop bucket. McBride didn't yell. She didn't need to. Effective immediately, she said, voice steady. "Private Mendoza and Private Kinley are reassigned to facilities maintenance. Report to custodial supervisor at 0600 tomorrow for duty rotations. No outrage, no courtroom drama. Just a decision." And in that moment it landed harder than any reprimand could have. Kinley opened his mouth to speak, then thought better of it. Mendoza stared at the floor. McBride turned to the others. "Everyone else may return to their duties with the understanding that what happened here today is now classified." No one moved. No one dared ask. Classified at what level? Because the answer was already spinning on the terminal outside in gold and red. Respect isn't granted by rank. It's demanded by presence. And Jenna Gray had just reminded them how that works. The glass doors opened with a soft hiss. Colonel McBride stepped out first, but only just. Jenna walked beside her. Not behind, not escorted, equal pace. The hallway parted like water. Technicians, officers, even civilians in slacks and lanyards, they all stepped back. Not by command, by instinct. No one whispered anymore. They just watched. The emblem on the terminal still spun slow and steady, casting faint golden light on the corridor walls. Jenna's boots didn't echo, but every step landed like memory. A young intern fumbled with his ID badge and dropped it. He didn't bend down until Jenna passed. McBride said nothing, neither did Jenna. They didn't need to. They moved with the silence of people who'd survived rooms louder than this, and carried secrets heavier than any file in that building. It wasn't a walk of shame. It was the return of something the system had buried, but never erased. They walked in silence down a quiet auxiliary corridor away from glass walls and watching eyes. The air here was cooler, older. Framed photographs lined the walls, commanders' units, formal smiles frozen in time. Most people passed without looking. Jenna didn't. McBride slowed near one frame, a man in dress blues, silver hair, soft eyes. "You remember Hammond?" she asked quietly. Jenna paused. He listened more than he spoke. Didn't flinch when truth made the room uncomfortable. McBride nodded. "He's the one who fought to keep your access active. Said some clearances shouldn't expire not because of power, but because of what they cost to earn." Jenna didn't answer. She didn't need to. McBride placed her hand lightly against the glass over Hammond's portrait. "He told me once. If Echo ever came back, it wouldn't be because of need. It'd be because someone forgot what respect looks like. And someone just remembered too late, but Jenna hadn't." They turned a corner and stopped in front of a glass memorial wall. Rows of etched names glinted under soft yellow lighting, unit numbers, deployment dates, end of service. Jenna's eyes scanned the list. Not searching, Just acknowledging. McBride stood beside her. Neither of them spoke for a long moment. Then quietly, "Do you regret coming back?" Jenna didn't answer right away. She reached out and brushed her fingers along one etched name, a name most would never notice. No rank, no medals, just a name. Her voice was low, even. "Regret isn't the word." McBride turned to look at her. "Then what is Jenna?" Exhaled softly. "Wait. It never goes away. You just get better at carrying it." McBride didn't speak again. She didn't need to. Some people survive by forgetting. Jenna Gray survives by remembering. The hallway stretched quiet ahead, sterile floors, motion sensor lights trailing behind their footsteps. McBride finally broke the silence. "So, what now?" She wasn't asking as a colonel. She was asking as someone who still believed in something larger and maybe just maybe was afraid it had been lost. Jenna kept walking a few paces, then stopped. "I didn't come back to restart anything. I came back to remind it that it ever existed." McBride tilted her head. Echo. Jenna shook her head slowly. "Respect." The word echoed louder than any protocol name ever could. She looked down the empty corridor. People forget. Systems forget faster. But wait always finds its way back. McBride exhaled through her nose, a sound halfway between a laugh and surrender. She didn't return for revenge. She returned to remind the system what it had chosen to forget. They stepped back into the main corridor. The screens along the walls were still red. The golden triangle still spun on the security terminal, slow, defiant. No one had dared turn it off. As Jenna walked past the front desk, even the air felt different. Cooler, more aware of itself. A young officer stood frozen near the exit badge, clipped slightly crooked earpiece still blinking. He stepped aside without a word as she passed. Behind the reinforced glass of the operations booth, the security lead whispered into a headset. "She's exiting now." "No, sir. No detainment order. Courtesy protocol confirmed." "Yes. Still active." No alarms sounded. No one said thank you. No one dared ask her name again, because the system that once created her now didn't know what to do with her. And maybe that's exactly what she wanted. Outside, the sun had climbed high, casting sharp shadows across the concrete. Jenna stepped through the front doors without breaking stride. No salute, no acknowledgement, just presence. Near the side of the building, Kinley stood beside a janitor's cart, the same boots, the same face, but none of the swagger. He held a mop loosely in one hand, watching her through the glass. His uniform no longer bore rank, only reflective stripes. Their eyes met. Not for long, but enough. He raised a hand, not quite a wave, not quite an apology. Just acknowledgement. Jenna didn't stop. She didn't smile, didn't frown, but she nodded, once. And that was all. Some lessons don't come with punishment. They come with a moment you never forget. The driver's side door creaked as Jenna pulled it open. Her truck was old, the kind that didn't care about keyless ignition or Bluetooth. It just worked. She slid into the seat, adjusted the rearview mirror, not to check traffic, to see the building behind her. Just once. No one stood at the door now, but she could feel them, watching from inside, processing. The key turned. The engine rumbled to life, low, steady, familiar. No sputter, no hesitation. She shifted into gear and the tires rolled over the painted lines, past the security post, past the front lawn, past the system that had once claimed her and now couldn't explain her. She didn't look back, because she didn't need to. You don't look back when you know exactly who you are, even if the rest of the world just found out. Inside the federal complex, the lights were back to full brightness. The red status screens had gone dark. The triangle emblem no longer spun. The scanners worked. The coffee machines hummed. The system had reset, but nothing truly was normal. In cubicles, hands hovered over keyboards, not typing. A printer blinked with a pending job no one remembered sending. A maintenance worker paused outside the conference room Jenna had used, staring at the smudges on the glass like they meant something more. Down in security control, the supervisor sat with his headset half on, half off. The red phone was back in its cradle, but his hand hadn't left it. In the background, a monitor cycled quietly through camera feeds, and then, without prompt, the terminal at Checkpoint 1 flickered. For a split second. Just enough for someone to whisper, "She's still in the system." You can clear the logs, but you can't erase presence. From the third-floor observation window, Colonel McBride watched the parking lot. Jenna's truck had vanished into midday traffic. A young staffer approached a tablet in hand screen filled with flagged incident reports, system logs, clearance, conflicts. He hesitated, then asked Colonel, "What do we put in the official record McBride didn't turn?" She kept watching the road. "Put down that we ran a security verification protocol. No breach, no external interference. System returned to baseline without incident." The staffer nodded, but stayed, and the individual who triggered it, McBride, finally turned, looked him straight in the eyes. What individual alpha-level clearance doesn't exist? She walked away, leaving him standing there, tablet blinking, full of data that no longer mattered. Behind him, the terminal that had once lit up gold quietly powered down. Some truths don't get recorded. They get remembered, and then buried. The road stretched long and straight-lined with dusty trees and sun-baked signage. Jenna drove in silence. One hand on the wheel, the other resting loosely over her old canvas folder. The radio played low, classic rock station, half-static, familiar. She didn't hum along. She never did. Through the windshield the highway shimmered with heat. But in the rearview mirror, only. Sky no buildings. Just gone. She passed a rusted green road sign, Shelby Field. 6 miles. She glanced once, just long enough to remember. 2 names came to her mind. She didn't speak them. She didn't need to. They had once marched beside her. Now they rode quietly in the back of her mind, etched deeper than any dog tag, classified file, or blinking terminal. Some people leave the war behind. Others carry its weight so no one else has to. She turned off the highway just past mile marker 114. No sign, no name, just a gravel path buried beneath weeds and dry wind. Jenna followed it like memory tires crunching over stone, the engine humming low. At the end, a squat building, concrete and rust. No lights, no flag, just a faded number stenciled above the steel door, A7. Most maps had erased it. Most people never knew it existed. But Jenna did. She stepped out, boots raising soft dust. Approached the panel near the door, its buttons sun-bleached, almost unreadable. She entered a 6-digit code by feel, not sight. A pause. Then clack. The door opened with a groan like something waking up after decades of sleep. Inside, stale air, empty bunks, power cables coiled like veins no longer used, but it was still there. Waiting. Some places aren't erased. They just wait for the right person to come back. The air inside smelled like dust metal and memory. Jenna walked slowly, tracing the outline of old lockers and cable racks. Most were empty. One wasn't. In the back corner beneath a rusted shelf sat a metal case dented matte black. Taped across the lid in faded marker E6. Nothing else. She crouched down, ran a hand over the surface. Her fingers hesitated at the latch, then flipped it open. Inside, a worn field notebook, a sealed flash drive still labeled Secure Boot Only, and a single photo. 3 people, younger, smiling. Before echo meant silence. Jenna stared at it. Her face didn't change, but her breathing did. She picked up the notebook first. Its pages curled at the edges, marked in code and shorthand, no one taught anymore. She didn't flip to the end. She opened to the middle, because she knew that's where it stopped. Some stories don't begin at page 1. They begin where they were forced to end. The paper was yellowed at the edges, ink smudged where sweat or rain had once touched it. Pages filled with codes. Grids. Silence. But in the center on a page Jenna hadn't touched in years was something she hadn't written. A line. Just one. Written in rushed, slanted print. Too neat to be hers, too recent to be from then. If you're reading this, it means you survived, and I didn't. Jenna froze. The field around her went still. She read it again and again, as if the words might rearrange themselves, as if they couldn't possibly be real. The handwriting was his, the one who'd covered her exit, the one who'd stayed behind when the door sealed shut. She closed the notebook slowly, cradled it like something alive. He didn't leave a report. He left a message, and she had just become its final reader. Jenna stared at the notebook for a long moment, not to memorize the words. She already had. Her thumb brushed the page once more, then closed the cover. She placed the flash drive into her jacket pocket, folded the photo, slid it behind the notebook. Then she stood. The room didn't feel cold anymore. It felt focused, like it remembered how to breathe. She clicked the lid of the metal case shut firm final. Not to bury it, to carry it. Sunlight cut through the cracked window, landing across her shoulder. She walked to the exit. Didn't pause at the doorway. Didn't check for anyone outside. There wouldn't be anyone. But somewhere out there, someone had left her a message. And that meant one of two things. He had died with hope, or he hadn't died at all. Some signals don't fade. They wait until the right person picks them up again. The next outpost wasn't on any map. Just a hilltop shack with a collapsed satellite dish and a comms relay so old it still ran off analog signal paths. Jenna unlocked the rusted hatch and descended a steel ladder into shadow. Inside, the equipment blinked to life with a low electrical hum like it hadn't powered on in years, but never forgot how. She didn't reach for the mic right away. Instead, she opened the panel input a manual frequency 17.41. Echo Pulse. A number no one had used in almost 2 decades. A soft green light pulsed. The system was live. She leaned forward. This is Gray. Echo designation active. If you're listening, I received your page. The mic crackled in reply. Silence. Then static. Then a sound. Soft. Rhythmic. A ping. Once. Then again. Some signals never stopped. They just waited for the right voice to answer. The mic buzzed with soft static. The green light blinked steady, waiting. Jenna didn't move. Didn't breathe. Not yet. She leaned closer, finger hovering above the gain dial. Then a voice. Cracked. Low. Distorted through years of absence and worn transmission paths, but unmistakable. You came. 2 words. That's all. But Jenna's fingers tightened on the edge of the console. Her jaw tensed just slightly, because it wasn't a stranger's voice. It was his, the one who'd written in her notebook, the one who should have been buried beneath a locked protocol and a sealed blast door. He was alive, somehow, somewhere, and now, he knew she was too. There are voices you forget, and there are voices that remind you why you never could. Jenna didn't answer right away. She sat still, one hand on the console, the other curled slowly into a fist. The voice had been real, not a recording, not a ghost, and if he had said those words, then he knew what they meant. So did she. She leaned into the mic, voice level deliberate. Echo 1 responding. Location secure. Access revalidated. The light on the console shifted green to blue. A low tone pulsed in response. The frequency had changed. She'd just triggered something. Not a conversation. A handshake. A confirmation. Whatever came next had already been set in motion long before today. Jenna sat back, eyes on the static-filled screen. Then she said it not as a greeting, but as a signal. Ready to receive. This wasn't about reunion. It was about return. The console whirred. Not loud. Just enough to say something had awakened. On the screen, lines of green code spilled down line by line like a whisper crawling back through time. Then it stopped. Just one entry remained blinking, 37.4, 2 again, 116, 606 BW. Jenna stared at the numbers, not because they surprised her, but because she knew exactly where they pointed. She reached to the side panel, pulled a folded sun-faded field map from a case labeled Inactive, unfolded it slowly, traced her finger to the edge of a red zone. No labels, just a gray square once marked as training range, but she remembered the real name. So did the system. Black Hollow, the place Echo had ended, or was supposed to. Coordinates don't lie, they wait until someone's ready to return. Jenna moved through the outpost like someone retracing familiar steps. Not hurried, not hesitant. She opened a storage crate under the bench, pulled out a weather-stained duffel bag. Inside, a folded jacket, no insignia. An old canteen, a rolled-up field map with pencil marks too faint for satellite eyes. She packed lightly, efficiently, like she'd done this before, because she had. Jenna paused only once to pick up her watch from the console. It was scratched, still ticking, the kind that kept perfect time even in silence. She strapped it on, then zipped the duffel shut, picked up the notebook, and walked toward the hatch. No radio call, no goodbye, only purpose. Some missions don't begin with orders, they begin with a map no one else can read. The dirt road ended where the map said it would nowhere. No sign, no checkpoint, just a clearing flattened by time and wind. Jenna stepped out of the truck. The heat rose in waves. The silence dense, not empty. She scanned the tree line. Nothing moved. But the signal, it was here. She followed a narrow path between brush and gravel boots pressing into the earth like it still remembered her weight. Then she saw it. A single field beacon half-buried, rusted, blinking, faint green. Echo Standard. Short range. Only responds to one frequency. Hers. She knelt beside it, brushing off a layer of dust. Its signal light pulsed once, then again, then stopped. But it wasn't dead. It had acknowledged her. No voice, no orders, just a machine waiting for one specific person to come home. Jenna stood up slowly. The beacon behind her gave one final blink, then went still. But it had done its job. Something had. She turned and paused. In the dry dirt, maybe 10 feet from the path, a single set of footprints curved away from the tree line. Not hers, too large, too deep, too recent. The wind hadn't reached them yet. She crouched beside one. The tread pattern was military standard issue discontinued 10 years ago, but she remembered it. She'd seen it walking ahead of her once. On a rainy day, in a place that no longer exists on paper. You came. His voice had said it, but his feet had said it first. He was here. Or had been. In a place no one was supposed to survive. Someone else had already started walking again. Jenna followed the footprints in silence. They curved past dry brush over cracked soil until they stopped at a patch of stone. There, half buried beneath dust and debris, was a hatch. No markings, no keypad, no visible lock, just a shallow triangular indentation in the center. Same shape as the emblem that once spun on the terminal. Same shape engraved in memory. Jenna reached into her jacket, pulled out the ID card, the one they'd laughed at. She held it over the symbol, didn't touch, just hovered. The stone made a sound, a soft mechanical release like breath catching. Then, a click. The hatch didn't swing open. It acknowledged. A pulse of green lit the triangle in the ground beneath her, shifted stone, becoming invitation. She exhaled. Once. Then stepped forward. Some doors don't open for clearance. They open for memory. The air inside was still, but not dead, like breath held. Jenna stepped through the final door. The concrete corridor narrowed, then opened into a dim chamber, dust dancing in the light of a single exposed bulb. He stood near the far wall, older, leaner. But it was him. He didn't move, didn't need to. She stopped a few steps in. "I read your page," she said. He nodded once. Then simply, "They forgot. I didn't. You didn't." She opened the duffel, took out the notebook, laid it on the table between them. Then without ceremony, she sat. He joined her. No orders, no titles, just two people who had once held the line. and now sat down to decide whether to hold it again. Some systems collapse. Some disappear, echo. It just goes quiet until someone remembers how to listen.